The hall of the Galactic Council was silent, yet heavy with fear. It was a place older than most civilizations in the stars, a chamber where countless empires had met to decide the fate of worlds. Today, however, the council members sat uneasily, their glowing eyes, scales, and strange forms shifting nervously as a single subject filled the air: Earth. For centuries the council had guided the galaxy, solving disputes, keeping peace, and warning of threats, but never before had they argued so fiercely about one small blue planet on the edge of the spiral arm. "The humans must be watched," spoke Elder Zyrith, his voice deep and heavy, echoing across the chamber. He was from a species so ancient that even the youngest counselors listened with respect. "They are dangerous. They do not think as we do. They do not submit as others have. We must warn all empires to stay away from them." At once, laughter broke out from a cluster of younger council members. A reptilian commander with crimson scales slammed his claw on the table. "Dangerous. Those creatures still burn primitive fuels and fight among themselves. They are violent, yes, but only against each other. What threat can such a divided species be to the stars?" His words carried confidence, but many could sense the pride in them. Elder Zyrith's eyes narrowed. He tapped a claw against the glowing holomap of Earth that hovered in the center of the chamber. The map shifted, showing images: wars, disasters, ruins, but also rebuilding, progress, and strange acts of resilience. "Look closely. Every time they fall, they rise again. Every time they break, they become stronger. This is not like other races. This is not a cycle of weakness. It is a pattern of survival." The chamber fell quiet. The younger members shifted uncomfortably. Few liked to be reminded of what humans had done in their short history. Empires thousands of years old often crumbled under a single great war, but humans had endured countless wars and yet still advanced. They fought with a kind of madness, and yet their madness forged unity in moments of greatest danger. A counselor with feathered wings spoke softly, as though afraid the words themselves might carry power. "But they are so small, so fragile. Their planet is only one. Can they truly threaten the galaxy?" Elder Zyrith leaned forward. "It is not the size of their world that matters. It is what lives upon it. Tell me, how many times have they faced extinction? Fire, ice, plague, war, and yet still they endure. Even when they should have died, they refused. What kind of species does this? A species that cannot be broken." The chamber grew darker as the great lights dimmed. It was custom in the council when a subject of great fear was discussed. In the half-shadow, another voice rose, one belonging to an ancient machine intelligence whose body gleamed with silver light. "I have run the calculations. I have compared their history to all known species. If they leave their world, if they step fully into the stars, then nothing will stop them. Not fleets, not empires, not laws of order. Humanity will spread like fire, and fire cannot be controlled." Some counselors trembled. Others refused to believe. The reptilian commander hissed loudly, breaking the tense silence. "Fear has blinded you all. I see only a primitive world. My empire will prove it. If they dare to rise, we will crush them before they can even crawl among the stars." A sharp murmur ran through the chamber. Elder Zyrith struck the table with his staff, the sound echoing like thunder. "Do not be fools. I have seen this before. Empires that ignored warnings, empires that thought themselves untouchable, they all fell. Do not think humanity will be different. They will rise. The only question is, will we let them rise in peace, or will we make them our enemy?" For a long moment no one spoke. The holomap of Earth spun slowly, its oceans shining like jewels in the void. The silence was heavy, filled with dread. Some council members whispered among themselves. Others stared at the small world, unable to look away. There was a strange pull to that planet, something both beautiful and terrifying. Finally, the leader of the council, a towering being of light, raised its hand. Its voice was calm but carried across the chamber like a storm. The Council will issue a warning. Let all empires know. Do not provoke humanity. Do not test them. Do not wake the storm before it comes. The decision was made, but unease lingered. Many agreed to the warning, but others, proud and arrogant, believed it was only fear-mongering. Already whispers of defiance spread among the ambitious empires. They would not listen. They would not obey. And so the seed of disaster was planted. The Council had spoken, but the galaxy was divided. Some would stay away from Earth. Others would ignore the warning. In the shadows of the great chamber, Elder Zyrith whispered to himself, a chill running through his ancient bones. Too late, he said softly. When they finally see the truth of humanity, it will already be too late. The warning of the Galactic Council spread across the stars, but not everyone listened. Many empires mocked the Council's fear, calling it nothing but superstition. Among them was the Dravic Dominion, a proud and warlike species whose fleets had crushed countless worlds. To them, Earth was nothing more than a weak planet, easy prey to show their strength. Their leader, High Commander Vanar, sat within the bridge of his flagship, staring at the glowing image of Earth on the screen. His crimson scales reflected the light as he sneered. This is the world the Council fears? A single green ball, filled with squabbling tribes. They warned us not to approach, but I will prove them wrong. The galaxy will see that the Dravic fear no one. Around him, his officers bowed their heads in agreement. Their fleet was vast, their weapons unmatched in firepower. No empire had resisted them. To their eyes, humans were nothing more than primitives who still fought each other with crude machines. The fleet jumped through the void, space bending as the stars stretched into streams of light. When the darkness returned, Earth appeared before them, blue and green against the endless black. For a moment, silence filled the bridge. The planet seemed peaceful, too quiet, almost fragile. Transmit our demand, Vanar ordered. A booming signal was sent across human channels. The voice of the Dravic roared in many languages, humans of Earth, your world is claimed by the Dominion. You will surrender your armies, your ships, your weapons. You will kneel before us, or be destroyed. On Earth, the message sent shock through the halls of power. Leaders gathered in secret rooms, scientists and generals listened to the threat, and fear spread quickly. Humanity had long wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer, and it came not as friends, but as conquerors. Many expected Earth to fall into panic. Some alien spies watching from afar believed humans would beg for mercy. But the first response from Earth was silence. No surrender, no pleas, no promises. Only silence. Days passed, and the Dravic grew impatient. Why do they not answer? One officer demanded. Vanar's tail lashed in anger. They are too frightened to speak. They cower in their holes. Soon, we will strike, and they will learn their place. Yet the silence was not fear. On Earth, leaders moved carefully. Nations that once stood against each other began speaking in whispers of unity. Generals studied the alien threat, scientists worked without rest, and satellites scanned the skies. Humanity had been divided for centuries, but now something strange was happening. For the first time in history, they began to prepare together. The Dravic did not see this. They only saw a quiet planet, which to them meant weakness. So Vanar sent a message again, this time filled with anger. Last chance, humans. Kneel before the Dominion, or we will erase your world. Still, no answer came. Vanar's eyes burned with rage. Enough, he growled. Destroy one of their ships. Show them our power. The order was given. A Dravic cruiser targeted a small human satellite vessel orbiting near the moon. With one beam of energy, the human craft exploded into fire and silence. The Dravic officers laughed, their claws clicking in triumph. Now they will learn fear, one said. But the humans still did not answer. Vanar snarled. If they want war, then war they shall have. What the Dominion did not know was that their action had changed everything. Humanity had watched quietly, but the destruction of their ship lit a fire inside every human heart. Across the world, anger rose. Soldiers prepared, pilots trained, engineers built weapons faster than ever before. Humanity's silence had ended. Now they were waiting, not with fear, but with resolve. Far above, in the halls of the Galactic Council, Elder Xyrith sat in sorrow. He had predicted this moment. The fools did not listen, he whispered. Other counselors gathered around him, their eyes filled with unease. They watched the reports of the Dravik fleet above Earth and the strange quiet of humanity below. Some still believed the humans would soon surrender, but others felt a cold dread. Silence from humanity was not weakness. It was something else. Back on the Dravik flagship, alarms suddenly rang out. "Commander!" shouted an officer. Unidentified signals rising from Earth's surface. Dozens. No, hundreds. They are launching ships. Vanar froze. On the screens, countless human craft rose into the skies. They were not as advanced as the Dominion's warships, but there were many. Too many. They moved with strange patterns, unpredictable, almost chaotic, but united with one purpose: to defend their world. For the first time, the Dravik officers stopped laughing. For the first time, they felt a chill in their scales. Humanity had answered, not with words, but with action. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Dravik Dominion believed victory was certain. Their fleet hung in orbit above Earth like dark shadows, their weapons glowing with deadly light. They had crushed dozens of worlds before, and to them, humanity was only another name on their long list of conquered species. High Commander Vanar stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident, his red scales gleaming under the lights. "This will be quick," he said with pride. "One strike, and their courage will vanish." But he was wrong. The humans were already moving. Across the planet, hidden bases lit up, runways roared with engines, and ships rose from the surface. Some were old and crude, some new and experimental, but all carried the same spirit. They did not rise as one nation, but as one people. Humanity had finally united. At first the Dravik laughed when they saw the human fleet. To their eyes, the ships were fragile, poorly armed, and slow compared to their own. "They bring toys to fight our warships," one officer mocked. "This will not be a battle. It will be a slaughter." The command was given. Dravik cruisers opened fire, beams of energy tearing through the void. Several human ships exploded at once, scattering into burning fragments. For a moment, it seemed the Dominion's words were true. But then something unexpected happened. The humans did not retreat. They did not scatter in panic. Instead, they moved forward, straight into the fire. Their formations broke apart, not from fear, but by design. They split into dozens of smaller groups, weaving and darting like hunters. Dravik officers struggled to track them. "Their patterns make no sense," one shouted. But to the humans, there was a method in the chaos. They attacked from every angle, using their knowledge of speed, timing, and coordination. Some ships sacrificed themselves to protect others, ramming into enemy fire or drawing attention away from weak spots. What the Dravik called madness was in truth something far more dangerous: adaptation. High Commander Vanar snarled as reports came in. 2 Dominion cruisers had already been damaged, their shields broken by concentrated human fire. "Impossible," he growled. "How can primitives strike us?" He did not understand that humans had spent centuries fighting wars with limited resources. They had learned to think differently, to turn weakness into strength. Every loss became a lesson, every death fueled determination. On Earth, soldiers and civilians alike watched the battle unfold. The fear that had gripped the planet only days before was gone. In its place was something else: anger, pride, and the unshakable will to survive. Humanity had been challenged, and now it refused to bow. The Dravik made their first mistake when they underestimated humanity. Their second mistake came when they grew reckless. Furious at the damage, Vaynar ordered his fleet to press harder. Crush them! Burn them from the skies! The Dominion warships advanced, but their pride blinded them. They failed to see the trap. Several human squadrons had lured them into Earth's shadow, close to the planet's gravity. There, hidden on the dark side of the moon, human defense platforms awoke. Hundreds of missiles, primitive yet deadly, launched at once. The Dravik fleet had no time to prepare. Explosions lit the void, tearing through shields and ripping holes in mighty ships. 3 cruisers were destroyed instantly, fire scattering across the black sky. On the bridge, Vaynar roared in fury as alarms blared. How? How did they do this? His officers scrambled for answers, but the truth was simple. The humans had tricked them. They had used deception, something the Dominion rarely faced. For the Dravik, war was about power and size. For the humans, war was about survival, and survival demanded cunning. The first major victory of humanity echoed across the galaxy. Signals of the battle spread, intercepted by listening stations and spies. Other empires watched in disbelief as reports came in. Primitive humans had wounded the mighty Dravik Dominion. Some laughed, thinking it was only luck. Others grew uneasy, remembering the Council's warning. In the Galactic Council chamber, Elder Xyrath listened in silence as the reports were read. Around him, counselors argued. Some said the Dravik would soon recover. Others whispered that perhaps the warning had been true after all. Xyrath's eyes narrowed. He felt no joy in being right. Instead, he felt a deep dread, for he knew this was only the beginning. Back in orbit, the battle raged on. Human ships continued to fall, but each death seemed to give rise to more courage. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more pushed forward. They were not stronger, not faster, but they were relentless. The Dravik did not understand this kind of war. They were used to enemies who broke after the first defeat. But humans did not break. They adapted, they endured, and they learned. And that was their greatest weapon. By the end of the day, the skies were filled with burning wrecks. Human fleets were battered but still standing. The Dominion had lost more ships than they ever expected. Vaynar stared at the ruined remains of his once proud fleet, his pride shattered but his rage burning brighter than ever. This is not the end, he swore. We will return with more ships, with greater power. We will crush these creatures. But in his heart, a seed of doubt had been planted. The mistake had already been made. The galaxy had seen that humans could fight the impossible and win. And from that day on, no one could look at Earth as weak again. News of the battle spread through the galaxy like fire in dry fields. The Dravik Dominion had faced humanity and had not won. Their mighty warships, feared by hundreds of worlds, had been broken by a species that was not supposed to matter. Some empires laughed, saying it was a small skirmish, a trick of luck. But others grew uneasy. They remembered the words of the Council, the warnings that had been ignored. In the chamber of the Galactic Council, silence hung heavy. Images of the ruined Dravik fleet played above the glowing table. Counselors shifted nervously, their voices low, their eyes filled with doubt. Elder Xyrath stood tall, his voice carrying across the chamber. You see it now. You all see it. The humans are not like the others. Every empire before them has fallen when pressed by the Dominion, but the humans held their ground. They do not break. They do not surrender. They grow stronger when pressed. His words were met with whispers and uneasy murmurs. A counselor with crystal-like skin spoke with disbelief. But they are young, too young. How can they do what old empires could not? Elder Xyrath's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Because they carry something hidden, something the galaxy has not faced before. The council chamber stilled. Even the most arrogant members leaned closer, waiting. What is this power? One finally asked. Xyrath turned, and the images above the table shifted again. They showed human history, wars, disasters, endless struggles. Empires rising and falling within centuries. Yet no matter how many times they tore themselves apart, they always rebuilt. This is their power, Xyrith said. Adaptation. Pain makes them stronger. Chaos gives them unity. They fight each other, and in doing so, they sharpen themselves like blades. When the true enemy comes, they are already forged in fire. That is why the Council fears them. That is why I fear them. Across the stars, in secret halls and hidden fortresses, alien leaders argued. Some still believed humanity was only a temporary threat. Others, remembering the sight of Dravik wrecks, began to prepare for what might come. Meanwhile on Earth, the world was changing quickly. What once was divided was now united. Nations shared technology, scientists worked together, and generals from rival countries now stood side by side. Humanity had seen the stars not as dreamers, but as survivors. They were no longer asking if they should fight, but how. Factories lit up with endless work, building ships, weapons, and new machines. What they lacked in advanced knowledge, they replaced with creativity and speed. Every failure became a lesson. Every victory became fuel. In secret, they began projects that even the Dravik could not imagine. Weapons that bent tactics, ships that twisted rules of battle, and strategies that no machine could predict. Above all, humanity carried something that could not be built or copied, the will to never stop. The Dravik learned this too late. After their first defeat, High Commander Vanar returned to his dominion in shame. But shame turned quickly to anger. He gathered his leaders and demanded more ships, more soldiers, more power. We will return to Earth, he swore. We will crush them before they grow. Yet, as he prepared, whispers spread among his own people. Some officers spoke quietly of the humans, of their strange power. They wondered if this war was wise. But Vanar silenced them with threats, his pride blinding him. He did not understand that every moment he delayed, humanity grew stronger. Back in the council, the machine intelligence known as Solvar spoke again, its voice cold and metallic. I have run new calculations. If humanity continues on this path, they will outpace many empires within centuries, perhaps even decades. Their growth is not steady, it is exponential. They rise faster than any model can predict. Fear rippled through the chamber. A feathered counselor asked, "Then what must we do? Contain them? Destroy them?" Elder Xyrith shook his head slowly. Contain them? No. They cannot be contained. Destroy them? Perhaps. But at what cost? Every strike against them will only make them stronger. Their hidden power is not in their machines, not in their fleets. It is in their spirit. That cannot be destroyed with fire. The words carried weight. For the first time, even the proudest counselors felt doubt. They began to realize the truth. The warning was not a theory. It was a shadow of the future, already taking form. On Earth, soldiers looked to the stars not with fear, but with determination. They remembered the voices that demanded surrender, the alien arrogance that called them weak. And in their hearts, a fire burned brighter than ever. They would not bow. They would not kneel. They would fight and they would win. The galaxy did not yet understand, but soon it would. Humanity's hidden power was no longer hidden. It had only begun to awaken. And once it fully rose, nothing in the stars would ever be the same again. The silence that once surrounded Earth was gone. Across the galaxy, signals of war carried from one star system to another. The Dravik Dominion had tasted defeat, and their pride could not accept it. High Commander Vanar demanded revenge. He called upon his empire to gather fleets greater than ever before. War factories burned day and night, building ships meant to crush humanity in one decisive strike. The Dominion declared before all empires, Earth belongs to us. Humanity will be erased. The words were meant to inspire fear, but instead they carried another effect. Other empires listened with unease. They remembered the Council's warning. Some wished to stay away, fearing the same fate as the Dravik. But others, greedy for power, saw opportunity. If the Dominion could not finish humanity, perhaps they could join the fight and take Earth for themselves. And so alliances were formed in shadows, fleets moved quietly across the stars, and a storm of war began to gather. On Earth, the people watched with sharp eyes. Satellites tracked every movement. Leaders knew what was coming, and still they did not bend. Instead, they prepared. Factories worked without pause, creating new ships, weapons, and machines. Nations that once stood apart now shared secrets. Old enemies sat at the same tables, planning as one. Humanity was no longer divided. They had seen the truth. Survival meant unity. Across the world, soldiers trained with fire in their hearts. Pilots studied the first battles, learning from every mistake, every loss, every victory. Engineers built weapons not with elegance but with creativity. What they could not match in alien technology, they replaced with numbers, cunning, and will. Humanity was learning faster than any empire expected. Elder Zyrith, watching from the council chamber, whispered to himself, "It has begun. The galaxy has made its choice, and now humanity will make theirs." When the Dominion fleets returned, the sky above Earth became a storm of fire. The Dravik had gathered ships from across their empire, greater in number than before. Their arrival was not silent. They came with fury, weapons glowing, ready to burn the planet until nothing remained. The first strikes fell like meteors, hammering Earth's defenses. Cities shook as shields flickered, oceans roared as weapons carved the seas. For a moment it seemed as though humanity would break. But then the human fleets rose again. From Earth, from the moon, from hidden stations in orbit, ships launched by the hundreds. They were smaller, weaker, yet they moved with unity the galaxy had never seen. Dravik officers expected chaos, but what they found was order born from madness. Human fleets scattered and regrouped, striking like wolves, vanishing into shadows, then returning from angles no strategy predicted. The Dominion pushed harder, but the harder they pushed, the stronger humanity grew. Vanar snarled on his bridge. "They are insects, nothing more. Crush them." His fleets surged forward, but even as they destroyed human ships, new ones rose to take their place. Every fallen vessel became a lesson. Every death taught the survivors how to fight better. For humans, war was not despair. It was a teacher. Far beyond Earth, other empires watched. Their spies sent reports of battles that defied reason. Primitive humans, less advanced than their foes, were standing against one of the galaxy's strongest empires. Some rulers began to tremble. If humanity could resist the Dravik, what would happen if they grew stronger? In the council chamber, arguments raged. Some demanded that the council intervene, that the war must be stopped before it spread across the galaxy. Others shook their heads, knowing it was already too late. Humanity was no longer fighting only for survival. They were fighting for a place among the stars. On Earth's surface, people crowded around screens, watching the skies burn. They saw their sons and daughters vanish into the blackness of space, many never to return. Yet instead of fear, pride filled them. They were no longer helpless before alien power. They were fighting back, and the galaxy was watching. Days turned into weeks, and the war grew larger. Battles spread beyond Earth, into the asteroid belt, into nearby planets. Each clash was fierce, each loss painful, yet humanity did not stop. Their ships grew faster, their tactics sharper. They turned wrecks into weapons, debris into traps. No empire in history had fought like this. No empire had dared. High Commander Vanar felt his confidence slip. His fleets were larger, stronger, yet every victory came at a greater cost. Every planet he scorched only seemed to fuel humanity's fury. "They should fear us," he muttered in anger. But deep inside, a seed of doubt grew. What if the council had been right? What if this species was different? Humanity's war had begun, and already the galaxy felt the tremors. Elder Zyrith spoke once more to the counselors who still doubted. His voice was grave. "You thought this war would end humanity. But mark my words, it will not. This war will end the galaxy as you know it. For when humanity fights, they do not only fight to live. they fight to win. And once they taste victory, they will never stop. The war that began above Earth soon spread across the stars. What the Dravik Dominion thought would be a swift conquest turned into a storm that consumed everything in its path. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. For every city burned, 100 voices rose in fury. The Dominion had expected surrender, but instead they awakened a force they could not control. Other empires watched from a distance. At first they mocked the Dravik, saying their pride had blinded them. But as the war dragged on, the laughter turned to silence. Reports came in of human fleets growing stronger, of new weapons appearing in battle, of strategies no one had ever seen before. Humanity was learning with terrifying speed. The council chamber grew tense. Elder Zyrith stood once more, his voice grim. "This is the price of ignoring the warning. I told you they would rise stronger when pressed. Now the Dominion bleeds, and soon the galaxy will bleed with them." Many counselors argued, saying the war was not yet lost, that the Dominion still had greater numbers. But the machine intelligence Solvar spoke coldly. "Numbers are meaningless against adaptation. The humans do not fight like us. They do not see war as an end. They see it as a path. Every defeat reshapes them. Every wound makes them sharper. If this continues, they will not only survive, they will dominate." On the battlefields of space, the proof was clear. Human fleets were no longer fragile. They had grown bold. They struck supply lines, ambushed convoys, and turned asteroids into weapons. Dominion fleets that once marched proudly across the stars now moved with fear. No world was safe, no route secure. High Commander Vanar raged on his flagship, his pride breaking as defeat piled upon defeat. "How can this be?" he shouted. "We have more ships, more firepower, more worlds. How can these creatures resist us?" His officers had no answer, for deep inside they knew the truth. The humans fought with something the Dominion could not understand. They fought as if every battle was their last, as if surrender was worse than death. The cost of war was rising not only for the Dominion but for the galaxy itself. Trade routes collapsed, colonies starved, and fear spread from one star system to another. Some empires, once eager to join the fight, now stayed silent, too afraid to move against humanity. Others still dreamed of conquest, but each passing day filled them with doubt. On Earth, the fires of war burned brighter. The world had changed in months more than in centuries. Nations that once distrusted each other now stood as one. Factories worked endlessly, producing ships faster than they could be destroyed. Children grew up under skies filled with fire, yet their eyes carried determination, not despair. Humanity was paying the price too. Their dead numbered in the millions, their cities scarred, their lands shaken. But unlike other species, the suffering did not break them. It forged them. Each funeral became a vow. Each loss became fuel. The galaxy had never seen such will before. Elder Zyrith knew it well. He watched the reports with heavy eyes, remembering the long warnings he had given. "It is too late now," he told the council. "The chance to stop them has passed. The Dominion's pride has already fed the fire. Even if humanity were destroyed tomorrow, the galaxy would never forget. Their story would spread, their spirit would endure. You cannot erase them. You can only fear what comes next." The council fell silent. Some wished to send aid to the Dominion, but others whispered it was better to let them fall, better to let humanity and the Dominion destroy each other. Yet none dared speak too loudly, for already they feared humanity might hear their words. Far away, High Commander Vanar made his choice. Broken fleets and burning worlds surrounded him, yet he refused to accept defeat. "We will strike again," he growled. "We will call upon every ship, every weapon, even those forbidden by law. If humanity cannot be crushed by strength, then we will drown them in fire." His officers obeyed, but their eyes betrayed their fear. The Dominion had ignored the Council's warning, and now they paid the price. Their fleets were broken, their glory shattered, their name cursed in whispers across the stars. Yet still they clung to war, even as the storm of humanity grew stronger. Across the galaxy, the truth spread. Humanity was no longer a quiet world on the edge of the spiral arm. They were no longer an unknown name. They had become something greater, something feared. The Council's warning had been ignored, and the price was now clear. The galaxy had awakened a force that would not stop. Humanity was rising, and nothing would ever be the same again. The war had dragged on longer than anyone expected. What began as a simple invasion had become a nightmare for the Dravic Dominion. Their fleets were scattered, their colonies burned, and their pride broken. Yet High Commander Vanar refused to surrender. His hatred of humanity burned brighter than the stars themselves. "We will not fall," he swore to his remaining officers. "If we cannot crush them with strength, then we will use every weapon, every secret, every forbidden power. We will show the galaxy that the Dominion does not bow." And so the Dominion began their final gamble. From deep vaults, they brought out ancient weapons locked away for centuries. Machines of destruction so dangerous they had been banned by the Council long ago. Entire fleets were reforged, powered not by honor but by desperation. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of what the Dominion was preparing. Other empires trembled, knowing that if Vanar unleashed such weapons, not only humanity but countless worlds might burn. Still, none dared to stop him. They watched in silence, waiting for the storm. On Earth, humanity was also preparing. Their fleets had grown larger, their tactics sharper. Though millions had died, their will had only hardened. Soldiers no longer asked if they could win. They asked only how long it would take. Leaders from every nation gathered in a single room, united under one purpose: survival. The words of their generals carried across the hall. "This will be the final strike. The Dominion comes with all it has left. If we stand now, we will stand forever. If we fall, there will be no second chance." Across the planet, people listened. From the smallest child to the oldest soldier, they knew what was at stake. Humanity had never been so united. When the Dominion fleets arrived, the stars themselves seemed to darken. Thousands of ships filled the void, carrying weapons that glowed with forbidden power. Entire planets shuddered as their engines roared. Vanar stood tall on his flagship, his eyes burning with fury. "This ends now," he declared. "Earth will burn, and humanity will be forgotten." The first strikes began. Beams of energy lanced through the void, shattering human defenses. Forbidden weapons unleashed storms of fire that twisted gravity and tore apart ships in seconds. Human fleets fell by the dozens, their cries echoing through the black. For a moment, it seemed the end had come. But humanity did not break. Even as their ships burned, new squadrons surged forward. They struck from every angle, weaving through destruction, turning chaos into weapons. Where one ship fell, another rammed into an enemy cruiser, dragging it into death. Where fleets scattered, they regrouped in seconds, attacking with fury. The battle became a storm, brighter than suns, louder than thunder. Vanar's officers watched in disbelief. "They should be broken," one whispered. "No species can fight like this. They should have surrendered by now." But Vanar only roared. "Then we will destroy their world itself. Fire on Earth." The order spread. Dominion weapons turned toward the blue planet. Beams of fire streaked across the void, cutting through the atmosphere, burning seas and shaking mountains. On Earth, cities trembled, shields strained, and the ground itself cracked. Yet still, the humans did not surrender. Their fleets pushed harder, their voices filled the stars with defiance. From the council chamber, elder eyes watched in silence. Counselors who once laughed now stared in horror. Elder Zyratha's voice was heavy as stone. "This is the final stand. The Dominion seeks to burn humanity, but in doing so, they will only awaken them further. The galaxy has chosen its path." The battle raged for hours, neither side willing to yield. Forbidden weapons tore apart space itself, ripping holes of darkness where light could not escape. Ships vanished into fire, entire squadrons were lost. Humanity fought like no species before them, but their losses were countless. Still, they pressed on. Vanar himself grew desperate. His claws gripped the edge of his command chair, his eyes wide with fury. "Why will they not die?" he shouted. "Why will they not bow?" And then, the moment came. Human fleets, battered and burning, launched one final strike. They gathered every ship, every weapon, every last drop of strength. Their formation surged through the center of the Dominion fleet, tearing it apart from within. Missiles, cannons, and ramming ships created an explosion that shook the stars. The Dominion lines broke. Vanar's flagship trembled under the force. His officers screamed as fire consumed their screens. Alarms blared, warning of collapse. Yet even as his empire crumbled, Vanar roared defiantly. "I will not fall to them. I am the Dominion. I am." His words were cut short as the flagship exploded, consumed by fire and silence. Across the void, the Dominion fleet shattered. The survivors fled, their courage gone, their leader destroyed. Humanity, though bloodied and scarred, still stood. Their ships drifted in the burning wreckage, survivors cheering through tears. The battle was won, but at a terrible cost. Millions were dead, fleets destroyed, cities scarred forever. Yet humanity had endured. In the council chamber, silence fell. Every eye turned to Elder Zyrith. His words were slow, his voice filled with both sorrow and awe. "The final stand has ended. The Dominion is broken. Humanity lives. The galaxy will never be the same again." The galaxy was silent after the battle. The Dravik Dominion, once feared across the stars, was gone. Their fleets lay in ruins, their worlds burned, their name shattered. But victory had not come without cost. Humanity had paid in blood. Their ships drifted among wreckage, battered and broken. Cities on Earth still smoked, oceans boiled, skies scarred with fire. Millions were dead, and yet humanity still stood. That survival alone was enough to terrify the galaxy. In the council chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. For the first time in memory, every empire was quiet. No one boasted of power, no one mocked Earth. All eyes turned to the humans, waiting for their reply. Would they demand vengeance? Would they strike back at those who had ignored the warnings and left them to fight alone? Would they turn their fury on the entire galaxy? Elder Zyrith rose, his ancient face troubled. "We see before us the truth," he said. "The Dominion is broken. But humanity has not only survived, they have risen stronger. Their will cannot be crushed. And now, they stand before us with the right to speak." The chamber doors opened, and the human delegation entered. They were not dressed in gold or silk like other rulers. They wore simple uniforms, scarred and burned from battle. Their faces carried grief but also unshaken resolve. The human commander stood tall at the center. His voice was not loud, yet it carried through the entire hall. "You warned them," he said. "You told the Dominion what would happen if they attacked us. They did not listen. They thought humanity would kneel. They thought we would beg. But we did not. We fought. And now, the Dominion is no more." Whispers rippled through the chamber. Some counselors trembled, others lowered their eyes. The human continued. "We know what you all feared. You feared us. You feared what humanity could become if tested. That fear made you stay silent while the Dominion came to kill us. You left us to stand alone. But we did not fall. And now, you see the truth of who we are." His words cut through the chamber like fire. Many counselors shifted uncomfortably, ashamed, but too afraid to speak. Elder Zyrith, however, nodded slowly. "And what do you wish from this council? What is your reply to the galaxy that doubted you?" The human commander paused, his gaze sweeping across the empires. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "We do not seek vengeance. We do not seek conquest. We have seen the cost of war, and we will not unleash it upon others. But know this, never again will humanity bow. Never again will we be treated as weak. If any empire comes to burn our worlds, we will rise. If any power seeks to chain us, we will break those chains. If any species thinks humanity will surrender, let the ashes of the Dominion be their answer. The hall shook with silence. The humans had not threatened conquest, yet their words carried more power than any fleet. Their strength was not in numbers or weapons, but in the unbreakable will that had carried them through the fire. One counselor dared to speak. And if we seek alliance, if we offer friendship, the human commander's expression softened only slightly. Then we will stand with you. Humanity does not seek endless war. But know this, we will never again depend on the mercy of others. We will protect ourselves. We will protect our world. And we will remember. Across the galaxy, the message spread. From the smallest colony to the grandest empire, every species heard humanity's reply. It was not the roar of conquerors, but the vow of survivors. It was a promise that humanity would endure no matter the odds. In the shadows of forgotten worlds, whispers rose. Some said humanity was the dawn of a new age. Others feared they were the beginning of the galaxy's end. But all agreed on one truth: humanity could no longer be ignored. Elder Zyreth watched the humans leave the chamber. His heart was heavy, yet also filled with respect. He had warned the galaxy, and no one listened. Now they had all seen the price. As the chamber emptied, he whispered to himself, "The stars will remember this day. They will remember the rise of humanity. And the galaxy will never be the same again." On Earth, the people gathered among ruins. They mourned their dead, rebuilt their homes, and looked to the stars not with fear but with determination. They knew more challenges would come. They knew other empires might one day test them again. But they also knew something greater, that no matter what came, humanity would never surrender. The war was over. The Dominion was gone. The Council had heard their reply. And across the endless stars, the name of Earth was now spoken with awe, with fear, and with respect. Humanity had stood at the edge of destruction and refused to fall. That was their reply. That was their victory. And that was only the beginning.